Hi, Kiya Tomlin here, and thanks for joining us for another episode of our Q&A series. A question I've been asked is, if you weren't designing, what career would you be doing? That's super easy. I grew up wanting to be a doctor. I studied pre-med in college. It wasn't specifically a doctor I wanted to be. I was interested in being a surgeon, but more specifically a pathologist. So either a pathologist or a taxidermist, I would say, would be my what I would be doing. I've always been really interested and curious about the body and the inner workings and what makes us different and how to understand and solve things. So a pathologist and a taxidermist are, to me, essentially surgeons without the risk. And I'll have to say I've been really surprised at how many fashion fashion designers I've come across that had a background or an interest in medicine and being a doctor and before they were into fashion. And so I'd like to think it has to do with analyzing the body. So it's analytical thinking, it's cutting, it's sewing. I guess in that vein, I could probably also be a serial killer, but it probably explains my love of Silence of the Lambs movie. But yeah, I would definitely be a pathologist or a taxidermist. Really, I think a lot of it stems from, when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of exposure to all the different careers that you could be. I loved fashion, but I didn't know anyone that was a fashion designer or anything about the fashion industry. So really it was just a hobby. I just kind of saw people that sewed for a hobby or, alterationists or stuff like that. Whereas growing up, the careers that you do know about are doctor, lawyer, fireman, teacher, policeman. So I think that's, of the careers that seemed obtainable to me, a doctor was the most interesting, and specifically surgery. Growing up knowing that I wanted to be a doctor, obviously there is a set path to becoming a doctor, and I think that's probably one of the things that did deter me or scare me off of fashion design initially, was that since I didn't know anyone that did fashion design and I didn't know anything about the industry, I didn't know how you go about getting to that end point of being a fashion designer or in the fashion industry. Whereas to be a doctor, you know that you graduate high school, then you go to college, you study pre-med, you take the medical exam tests, you apply to medical schools, you become a resident, and so that seemed like a very direct follow the steps path, and so that seemed attainable, whereas fashion designer was just kind of this really foggy idea that never even planted because I had no idea how you would become that. So when I finally did decide that I wanted to get into fashion, the whole, even still today, is constantly learning and trying to understand, how do I do that? I mean, I guess I am doing it to some extent, but there's always room for growth, and I'm always trying to figure out, okay, now how do I do this? What do I do next? It feels really satisfying to kind of dictate my own path. Also scary at the same time because I am, fully in charge. So I get to make the decisions, but I also am the one to live with those consequences. So yeah, I think it's really exciting to constantly be learning and teaching myself and figuring out new paths. I don't regret not becoming a doctor or pathologist or taxidermist. I figure I could, always pick up taxidermy as a hobby later on. Thanks for watching another one of our episodes for our Q&A series. If you like the content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel.